Welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. Mom and I are so grateful that you can join us again. And we're super excited because we are on 8 of the 12 series with Dennis J. Henson with us. We're going to do Hogan's Comeback today. He wrote the book Real Impact, and this is one of the stories from that. So I'm sure you will find this super inspirational because all of his stories are. So, welcome back, Dennis. We're excited to have you with us today.
Thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed being with you.
Okay, so did you want to give us anything, or do we just want to go into it and listen and then we'll have the discussion about it?
Yes, let's just listen and we'll discuss it.
Okay, sounds perfect.
Hogan's comeback. Ben Hogan was one of the greatest professional golfers to ever play the sport, and there's little doubt that he was the best of his time. At age 37, well, at the top of his game, something happened that changed the course of his life. One foggy morning, driving on a lonely Texas road, Hogan spotted an 18-wheeler headed directly for him. Swerving to avoid a head-on collision placed him in the path of a Greyhound bus. Realizing the inevitable, Ben bravely threw himself on top of his wife, saving her life. The subsequent collision left Hogan gravely injured. His broken body was rushed to the nearest hospital. The doctors did what they could. But Ben's injuries were catastrophic. His pelvis, ribs, and shoulder were broken. His ankle was totally shattered, and a blood clot from his leg was making its way to his heart. Hogan's only chance was emergency surgery. That operation saved his life, but the doctors told him he'd never walk again, much less play golf. Listening to their predictions, he nodded and sighed. But Ben had no intention of allowing an accident to keep him down. Although the following weeks and months were difficult, Ben's attitude remained positive. Day after day, he fought to regain the use of his body. His first significant hurdle was just to sit up. Having accomplished that, he focused on standing. Then, to everyone's amazement, he began to regain his ability to walk. And even though he could only manage a few short steps, he began practicing his golf swing. The pain he endured from the cuts, bruises, and mending bones was excruciating. His broken shoulder sent tremors throughout his body when he moved his arm. Putting weight on a shattered ankle was something an ordinary person couldn't have endured. But Hogan wasn't an ordinary person. To the astonishment of his doctors and the sports world, he entered the Los Angeles Open 11 months after the accident. Still, no one actually believed that he would be able to compete. The consensus was he'd probably not finish the 72-hole requirement. Yet, on Ben's first day back, he scored a 73. Over the next 2 days, he shot rounds of 69, and by the end of the 72nd hole, he was tied for the lead. And finally, he competed in a playoff round. Although he didn't win that tournament, he proved to the world that Ben Hogan was back and still a pro. His next goal was to win the U.S. Open. Once again, everyone doubted that he could do it, but on opening day, he shot a 72 and followed that the next day with a 69. However, that night, Hogan's body gave out. He suffered from nausea and dizziness. Though he soaked in a hot bath to relieve his strained muscles, his symptoms persisted. The following morning, he shot a 72, but his pain was unbearable by afternoon. Ben's legs were so numb that he considered dropping out. Then he remembered the letters he received from his fans struggling with disabilities. He pondered what it must mean to them to see him playing. Realizing that he was their champion, Hogan continued, fighting off the pain and playing through the numbness. He ended the round within 2 strokes of his morning score. The next day, feeling much better, Ben shot a 69 and won the tournament by 4 strokes. Although he was excited about winning, he was more pleased that he hadn't disappointed his fans. That U.S. Open win represented Ben Hogan's reemergence, and he once again became the dominant player in golf. In 1953, Ben completed the famous Hogan Slam by winning 3 consecutive major tournaments. His post-crash golf swing is recorded on film and is still used as an example of near-perfect mechanics. Hogan's unshakable optimism saved him from a life in a wheelchair and turned him into one of the world's most admired sports figures. It's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up. George A. Custer.
Wonderful. I love that. So, do you
Isn't
want
it
to tell
true?
us a little bit about what inspired you to share this story in your book with everybody?
Sure. One of the other stories in the book is a story of Ogmandino. And Ogmandino was going through a rough time, almost committed suicide, and found a library, started reading success books, and decided, well, I want to go to work with the guy that wrote this book. So he wrote a letter, and he was hired by the company, and they eventually put him in charge of their newsletter. One of the things he did in the newsletter was he had to write motivational material. And he wrote a story about Ben Hogan, which was the same story. Not exactly, but it was the same story. He wrote it in his way, I wrote it in my way, but it was that story. And because of that, a publishing company read the story and sent him a letter and said, if you ever decide to write a book, then let us know because we're interested. And so that's how the greatest salesman in the world book became, how it happened. And it was because of that story. So I thought, wow, I'll have to put that in the book too. I don't know if anybody put it together when they were reading the book, but if they're watching, they know now.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing because it's like it inspired somebody else and inspired you by inspiring him. So that's kind of neat how, these inspiring stories can inspire so many different people to rewrite it or tell it in their own way, which I think is amazing.
True.
Exactly. Ben Hogan was an amazing person. And even today, 75, almost 70 years later, golfers are still trying to master his stroke. They only have it on, they don't have it on video, they have it on film, but they still watch it and they still try to master it because it was really good. And considering what he had been through, crushed hip, doctor told him he'd never walk again. His ankle was in shatters, and he had that kind of will and determination that nothing was going to stop him, and it's hard to stop someone that is like that.
That is
That is,
that is so true. And I think it's neat because there was that determination. And it was funny because when I was listening to the story, it made me think of my mom because when we were young, she got Guillain-Barré syndrome, right? That's what it's called.
yeah, that's right. Very
And she
close.
ended up in the hospital and she had like no muscles in her legs and arms. And they told her she would never walk again. And she said, well, that's not going to work out for me. I'm a single parent. So I am going to walk again. So they were like, nope, this is it for you. So she went into a wheelchair and then she was determined enough that, well, clearly you can see she's walking and doing all the things. And so I love these stories that show that kind of determination and can inspire you to move forward with things. And I think it was great when he did it as well because it inspired these people that had the disabilities and not wanting to let them down, same kind of thing. But I just thought I'd share that story because that was also a very inspiring story for me to growing up, right? As on a personal level.
Thanks for sharing, Kim. It does show that motivation to succeed and to survive is important. Just to strive and run after what you want. If it means something to you, run after it.
Right. In the books I'm writing right now, The Seven Secrets of Success is one of them. The very first secret of success is getting your mind right. And that's what we're talking about, just not, not letting negative thoughts come in, being positive and moving forward regardless of what happens. So those are good examples of that first secret of success.
It is. And I think, we talk so negatively about ourselves as a habit, right? So this is so good to be inspired by these stories and talk about getting your mind right because, how do you get your mind right and achieve these goals that you set out to do if you're giving yourself all of this negative self-talk, right? Instead of just saying, you know what, I'm imperfectly perfect and here's how I'm going to move forward in my life to accomplish all the goals I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, your body is an amazing thing. It is amazing what it can do, but it all starts with your thoughts.
Yes, I agree. Because I think if you give into your thoughts and say, oh, this is like he could have done that, right? This is my diagnoses, and I'm not going to move forward because, I mean, I just can't because this is what they say. But he pushed forward onto that and said, no, no, no. That's not going to be it for me. And then to come around and be, somebody that's so iconic that golfers even today are watching him is amazing.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you think is maybe one of the other biggest takeaways from the story?
All of these stories have part of the seven secrets, get your mind right, seek wisdom, develop skills. And his skills were just absolutely amazing. You can still go on YouTube and type in Ben Hogan swing and watch him, and it's just perfect. So he was really good at developing skills and was just head and shoulders above everyone else, even after his accident. And then he I guess the seventh secret is persistence, and he certainly demonstrated persistence because he wouldn't let anything hold him down, which is very admirable,
Hmm.
an admirable
Mhm.
quality. But you find that in pretty much all super successful people. They're just persistent. They get knocked down, they just get back up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very true. Well, we look very forward to reading your Seven Secrets to Success because I think it's important for people to know these things. And it sounds like to me, when you read this book, it's going to give you some tips and tricks of how to, get your mind right and be persistent and seek all this wisdom. And even though I feel like so much of it is common sense, we do need to be directed because sometimes with this chaotic life that we live, we get lost, I think, and have a hard time finding our path on that.
It's common sense after you hear it. You think, oh, well, that's just common sense, but it took 50 years to put it together. So it's even though it's common sense, it's not that evident. And and for the secrets to work, they have to arrive at the right time. You don't just jump to the sixth one, or you form great alliances. You don't just jump in and say, okay, well, I'm going to go get a bunch of people to help me because you you have to have skills and have wisdom before anyone's going to want to help you.
Right.
Absolutely. And you have to know what you want to achieve before
All
you
right,
even
that's
start,
that's
right? Like and like you said, setting your mind right, getting that positive attitude about it and, you know, really honing down on this is what I'm interested in instead of like, well, this would be cool, but because I think a lot
Yeah.
of us do that.
right. Yeah,
They do.
you're getting your mind right means you have a definite purpose, a burning desire. It can't just be a desire. It has to be a burning desire. You really, really, really want it. And then you have to have faith that no matter what happens, you'll be able to get it. And I like the story of Abraham Lincoln is really, to me, really fits that where he was broke and he'd failed and failed and failed. He really didn't have anything. Uh, he hadn't completed the first grade, so he didn't have an education. So he didn't have money, didn't have education. He could barely speak the English language, but he found some books, which were Old English law books. He could read. He loved to read. He just read and read and read. And he read those Old English law books and he just loved them. So he started going to court. Once he found himself in the courtroom, he watched the judge, he listened to the people debating, he smelled the room, he felt the wood, and he thought, I'm home. This is where I should be. I need to be an attorney. And with all of those things going against him, he said, I'm going to become an attorney. I'm going to pass the Illinois bar. That's going to be my profession. And from that start, with very little chance of that happening, he became the second most prominent attorney in the state of Illinois, and the first most prominent attorney was his partner. So between them, they were the top. They were the top attorney and had the top business, law firm in the entire state. And from that, he became president. So it's amazing. Another amazing thing what people can do once they set their mind and decide nothing's going to stop me.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I think when opportunity arrives, you should go for it. Try it out, because you never know, that might be the opportunity that's going to set your life and its progress going to go in the end. So it's like if something's offered to you, I'll have people in the back going, I don't think I can do that right now. But if you push yourself forward and say, no, that's really what I want to do, it's an opportunity for me, take it, then therefore you could land yourself very well in this lifetime.
I agree.
So what do you think holds most people back from jumping into these opportunities that present themselves to them?
I think it's their butts. I would love to be a veterinarian, but I don't have the money to go to school. I don't feel like I could pass. They just say but. So their butts get in the way. If they could change their butts to ands, I want to become a veterinarian. I'm visiting a new clinic every week, and I'm studying about veterinary medicine, and I'm checking out the schools, and I'm looking for grants. If they change their butts to ands, then they'll have a better chance of reaching and becoming successful.
True.
As long as they're saying but, they're talking themselves out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Then they'll just be on their butts. Right? Because really, and we so often do these things that, and I think life is just, it's so short and so wonderful. So why not jump into these opportunities and see what's, in some cases, see what sticks or doesn't stick, whether you like it or not. And then when it's the big goal, just keep going and don't put those butts in, like you said. So I think that's.
If you can develop a burning desire, it makes it so much easier because you want it so bad that getting knocked down is just, just get up, go again.
That's exactly right. So, well, I think everybody should get your book because it's amazing. And like we said, it's very inspirational. Both Mom and I have really enjoyed reading it, and just there's so much information in there between, the poems and the list of books that you can read after your book to, be inspired by people's stories. So, can you tell everybody where they can find you and where they can find your book?
You can find my books on Amazon, or you can just Google and they'll come up there on Shopify. So if you go to realimpactbook.com, that's the best place to start probably. And if you'd like to have an ebook copy at no charge, you can go to realimpactbook.com and scroll down to the bottom where it says podcast attendee and click on there, and you'll get an immediate download. You just put in your name and email. We don't put you on an emailing list unless you click the link that says notify us when you have other books. And then when my other books are published, you'll get an email, one email to say, "Hey, there's another book if you want to check it out." So I'm hoping that you'll go and get the ebook, that you'll read it, you'll love it, and you'll think, "Oh, this will make a great gift." This month's weddings, so we got a special for weddings. So a great gift for groomsmen in a wedding. It's a great gift for graduation if someone's graduating from high school to college, or if you just know someone who's struggling, who needs a little bit of inspiration, motivation. Maybe you'll get them a book and just gift it to them. So they're super gifts. They're very inexpensive, and the deluxe edition is just gorgeous. And I made it that way on purpose, so it would be a really, really nice gift for under $50, actually under $40.
Well, it is a very, and I loved how the book is set up where you can read the short stories, you can read the long stories, you can read the poems. So it's kind of like there's a story or something to read for every little bit of time that you have, right? So
Yeah,
I think that was a really lovely thing that you did to, you know, people can incorporate it into their day that way.
it helps you form the habit of reading every day because you don't have any excuse. Well, I didn't have time. Well, you can read a quote. How long does that take? Seconds.
Right.
Right.
And it all matters, right? Like I know for myself, like I'm an avid reader and I know my oldest son is, and now my youngest son is actually adopting into reading, which is beautiful because, but I always read. I always had books all over the house when the kids were growing up. And, when we were young, mom read to us and, when we were like 10, 11, she was reading The Hobbit to us and, those kind of things, right? To inspire us to read, which totally worked for me. So, and I do. I'm the same. I read every single day and I thoroughly enjoyed your book. So
Well,
thank you.
thank
Thank
you.
Yeah.
you for
Very
writing
much.
it.
You're very kind.
So we appreciate you doing this series with us. This has been so much fun, and we still got a few more to go through the 12 different stories. So I hope everybody's really enjoying this. And please reach out to Dennis if you have any questions or, whatever you're looking for. And your site is great because you offer all kinds of free books and lots of fun stuff. So I hope everybody will go to your website and check that
Check
out.
it out. Yeah.
Yes. So thanks for being with us, Dennis. It's always a pleasure. And when we're done this 12-part series, hopefully when you get your next book up and going, we'll be able to touch base on that and talk about that as well.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me.
Yes. All
You
right.
bet.
And everybody else,
Thank
we will see you the next time.
you. Sure will.